Okay, this is all about our Constitution of India. Okay, SST lesson number 5. The Indian Constitution. The Constitution of India is a set of rules and laws according to which our country is governed. So, what is Constitution? Constitution is a set of rules. So, there are lot of rules and regulations, and we have lot of laws. Okay, so depending upon these laws only our country's movement is going on. Okay, so these laws, sets of laws, are called constitution. Okay, and on one hand it defines the position and power of the three organs of the government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. On the other hand, explains the relations between the government and the citizens, as well as the rights and duties of the citizens. So this constitution contains major things. Okay, so what are the things the constitution is maintaining? There are this constitution has three organs. Okay, so three organs means important parts, like in our body we have many parts. Okay, there are internal organs, many things. So this our country has three main organs. Okay, we can call it as a organs of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Okay, and on the other hand, it also explains the relationship between government and the citizens. Okay, citizens means every person who live in the country. Okay, so it maintains the relationship as well as the rights and duties of a citizen. What are the things we have to do and what are the things we should not do? So there are a lot of sets of laws and regulations that helps a citizen to live according to this. Okay, and we have some duties towards our country. Okay, and as a good citizens we have some duties, and we have to follow all the rules and regulation of the countries, and we have some rights. Rights means some kind of the benefits, the things that we can enjoy. So all these things are mentioned in the constitutions. Okay, and need for the Indian constitution. Before gaining independence, India was ruled according to the laws passed by the British Parliament. After India got independence on August 15, 1947, our leaders felt that India should be governed by its own rules and regulations. Owing to this, the Constitution of India came into being. The Constitution of India is the supreme law of India. It is the country's highest rule book. It contains the various rules and regulations according to which our country is governed. The Constitution of India ensures effective governance. Okay, so what is the need of Indian Constitution? So before the independence, which means the Independence Day, when we celebrate our Independence Day, we celebrate our Independence Day on 15th August every year. Okay, we got independence in the year of 1947. Before that we had British ruling. Okay, so before the independence, British people, they followed their rules and regulations. Okay, even though they were in India, but they were following their rules and regulation. So once we got the independence, our leaders, they felt that we should have our own rules and regulation according to our Indian culture and according to Indian citizens. So here Indian situation and all those things. So they made the Constitution of India. Okay, it is the highest rule book. We can say it as a highest rule book. It is a supreme rule of our nation. Okay, and it contains various laws and regulations, rules and regulation according to which the country is governed. Okay, see, we have lot of ministers, lot of officials. Okay, they all follow these rules. According to this constitution, they run the country, they maintain the things, they look after the country and all those things. Okay, and the constitution of India ensures effective governance. Okay, so the constitution of India is ensures means it is conforming and very clearly says about the governance or the maintenance of every things in our country. Okay, and governance, it's a kind of management or looking things and supervision or leading. Okay, it all comes under this constitution. Okay, formation of the Indian constitution. After the independence of India, a constitution assembly was formed to frame the constitution of India. Some prominent members of the constituent assembly were Dr. Rajendra Prasad or Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, or Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, etc. The Constituent Assembly in turn set up a drafting committee to prepare the draft of our constitution. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was made the chairman of the drafting committee after considering the various aspects and after going through the constitution of the countries like US, UK and Ireland. The drafting committee drafted the Constitution of India. After the approval of the Constituent Assembly, the Constitution of India came into force on January 26, 1950. 26 January is therefore celebrated as the Republic Day all over India. Okay, and okay, so here we can find there was a committee, like an assembly was formed to frame the constitution. So we were in need of a constitution once the British went out. Okay, and after that we need a constitution, so there was an assembly held. Okay, and there were some prominent members of the Constituent Assembly. Who were they? First one is Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So these were the important people who were in the assembly. Okay, the Constituent Assembly in turn set up a drafting committee. After making this assembly, so they appointed a drafting committee, like who can write the things, make everything in the order, arrangements. They wrote every single law and regulations, every points, every deeds and everything they made. Okay, and for that what we call Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was made the chairman of the drafting committee. So this is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So he was the chairman of the drafting committee. After considering various aspects, different angles, they looked after and going through lot of constitutions, like Constitution of USA, America, Constitution of UK, England, Ireland. Okay, they they were considering, they took all the constitution, they went through, and finally the approval of the Constituent Assembly had, and finally they have activated this Constitution of India, and it was came into force on 26th January 1950. Okay, you got the idea. So first, how the constitution was formed. First there was an assembly held. Okay, and some important people, the prominent leaders were the part of that team, and after that they made a committee of a drafting team, and Dr. Ambedkar was the chairman of that drafting committee. After that they collected many constitution of the different countries like US, UK and Ireland, okay, and they drafted the Constitution of India. And after the approval of the Constituent Assembly, which means the total entire body of the Constituent Assembly, and this came into force, means it came to practice in our country. That was on 26th January 1950. That's why we celebrate this day as a Republic Day throughout India every year. Okay, here there is a small note. The drafting committee took 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days to draft the Constitution of India. See, just you think about the entire Constitution, every single law. Today, whatever happens, see, immediately we look after the law, what that law says, what this law says, what are the rights, what are the things we have to do and not to do. See, just to think about every department. Okay, so there were a lot of things to do. So this committee, the drafting committee, they sat and did this work day and night. Okay, it could not be finished by 2 years, but with the hard work of this team, they made it happen in 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days. See, we have to appreciate really this drafting committee, because just not only just reading, making it, writing, everything making is not that easy work. Just to think about writing 5 assignments, your 5 homework in a day, how hard it is. See, these people, they did marvelous work. Their contribution always should be remembered and respected. That's why we say we should not violate, or we should not disobey the law. We have to respect the law, because there was such a hard work was taken place behind it. It was not came to force very easily. It was the hard work of many good leaders of our country. Okay, nature of the Indian Constitution. So the chief characteristics of Constitution of India are written constitution, longest constitution, rigid and flexible constitution, okay, and federal form of government and parliamentary system. Okay, these are the characteristics. So characteristics means, so that is a nature. So there are some important factors in the constitution. Okay, and the written constitution, the Constitution of India is a written document. The rules and laws are in written form. They are not unwritten, like that in case of the British Constitution. See, they made everything in written. See, nowadays typing and doing all this printing and all very easy, but manually writing, you just think about. See, take your SST lesson. Okay, this book, can you write the entire book? Just imagine, altogether how many lessons are there, how many pages are there. Can you rewrite each and everything in a notebook or in a piece of paper or in a papers? So how much hard work we need to do. So this is that's why we have to salute them, we have to honor them, respect them. Okay, and it is not simply the unwritten like the British Constitution. Okay, our constitution is a written one. Okay, and second one, longest constitution. The Constitution of India is the lengthiest constitution in the world. It is also the most detailed in the entire world. Originally it had 395 articles and 8 schedules. See, India's constitution is the longest, means it has a wider area of every detailed information, every detailed rules and regulations are mentioned in the our constitution, and it has 395 articles, means different sections. These many sections and 8 schedules are there. Okay, nothing is left out. Just you think, whatever problem we face, it is there, solution is there for every problem. Okay, so that is a thing that we have to think. Okay, we have to mention, and we have to be always respected by, we should respect them, we should respect our constitution. Okay, and rigid and flexible constitution. Some parts of the Constitution of India can be amended by a simple majority of the parliamentarians. However, important amendments requires a special majority. See, this how every rules are getting into operation, how a rule is passed out or implemented. Okay, that is depend upon the majority acceptance of the parliamentarian. There are people, ministers, a lot of parliamentarians are there. The people take part in the parliament house. Okay, so the majority of the acceptance of the parliamentarian only can amendment this all the rules and regulation. Okay, any part of the rules can be amended by the simple majority of the parliament. But however, important amendments require a special majority. But for some cases we need special majority. Okay, majority means the highest number of acceptance. Okay, and federal form of government. The Constitution of India provides for a federal form of government wherein central as well as state governments govern the country. Okay, so there are the federal form of government. The Constitution of India provides a federal form of government wherein central as well as the state government govern the country. There are some areas, certain area, both government, like we have central government and state government, right? Okay, some implements are given by the central government and some are from state government, but there are something that are followed by both governments, like central and state governments. So that's why it is the federal form of government. Okay, it is kind of cooperation and is the united work of the government. Okay, and parliamentary system. The Constitution of India establishes a parliamentary form of government. The central government is answerable to the Parliament of India, which has two houses, the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. Similarly, state government is answerable to the state legislature, which may have two houses, the Vidhan Sabha and the Vidhan Parishad. Okay, and parliamentary system. So there is a system. Every country has its own system. So in India we have a parliamentary system. Okay, the Constitution of India establishes a parliamentary form of government. Okay, whatever the decisions are taken in the parliament, it is implemented. Okay, the central government is answerable to the Parliament of India. So there are people in the parliament, selected leaders. So the government, which means the leading government or the heading government, is answerable to the parliamentarians, the people who are sitting there. They are the representative of every citizen, like state. There are different people from different states, district, and everybody is taking part in the House of Parliament, and they just raise lot of questions, they ask the doubts, and they bring lot of clarities, and the government of the the government, central government, is answerable to the parliament people. Okay, the parliamentarian. Okay, and it has two houses, one is Rajya Sabha and another is Lok Sabha. Okay, we will learn it in the next in the another lessons. Okay, and similarly state government also is answerable to the state legislature. Okay, it also has two houses, one is Vidhan Sabha and the Vidhan Parishad. Okay, we will learn it later on in detail. Okay, and directive principles of state policy, guiding principles. Okay, the Constitution of India includes certain principles and ideas which the government of the day should follow and aim to achieve. These guiding principles are called directive principles of the state policy. These principles are essentially the directives or guidelines for the governments while framing policies for the welfare of the people. The directive principles are mentioned in part 4 of our constitution within article 36 to 51. They were taken from the Irish constitution. The directive principles include, so we have some of the things to learn in detail. Okay, so we have a directive principles or the guiding principles. Okay, and we have some certain principles and the ideas which the government of the day should follow and aim to achieve. So there are some certain things to follow, and there are things to aim at. We have to achieve. These are the targets. So we fix the target and we follow that, and there are guidelines and principles to follow to achieve the aims. Okay, these guiding principles are called directive principles of the state policy. So what are the directive principles? The guiding principles are the the ideas to follow is the directive principles. Okay, and these principles are essentially to directives or guidelines for the governments while framing policies. So whenever they frame a policy or any plan, so they will take in note of all these guiding principles. According to that principle, they will make a plan or the guidelines. They will make some policies for different projects and different works. Okay, and these all projects and everything policies they make for the welfare of the people. Okay, so this is the main place where new kind of development, new kind of things and the welfare activities or the welfare plannings are taking place. Okay, so according to that policies, the implementation taking place. Okay, the directive principles are mentioned in part 4 of our constitution within article 336 to 51. So already we have seen. Okay, we have almost we have how many articles are there? 395 articles are there. Okay, 395 articles are there, and these particular policies, these particular directive principles are mentioned in 36 to 51 articles, and there are many parts. Okay, every article is divided into different parts, like first part, second part, 1 and 2, and sub articles are there, sub points are there. So here we can find these principles. Okay, they were taken from the Irish constitution. Okay, and the directive principles, they include principles promoting economic equality. So what are the things included in this what we call these directive principles? So mainly we have principles promoting economic equality. These direct the government to provide adequate means of livelihood for all citizens. So first thing, they have economical equality, means every citizen should be benefited financially. Okay, so for that they have made this one, and this provides enough the livelihood, adequate means of livelihood for all citizens. So whatever the need of the normal people, citizens, they make plan in such a way that all the benefits are shared very equally. Okay, nobody is left out and there is no partiality in it. Okay, so then equally distribute the wealth and resources of the country among all citizens. So in our country has lot of wealth and benefits. Okay, so this constitution directs us to give the wealth and guides us to distribute the resources, whatever benefits we have, to every individual citizens. There is no difference. Equally means everyone is equal, so distributing to everyone equally. Give equal pay for equal work to both men and women. So there is no difference between men and women. So the constitution guides us to give the equal pay to the equal work, equal pay to the equal work. Nowadays you can see, the ladies are paid less and the men are paid more. Okay, but our constitution says, and it is equal for equal work, both men and women. See, provide public assistance to the aged, sick and the differently abled people. So these policies, see, these policies, these directive principles are included. These are important things. See, it is covering every aspect of the citizens. Okay, and there are one more thing, Gandhian principles. Some ideas were of Mahatma Gandhi. As a part of the directive principles, they suggest that the government to provide free and compulsory education to children up to the age of 14. So this is a Gandhian principle. So one principle, that is for economic equality, we have some benefits out of it. Okay, and Gandhian principles are there. So what is the first principle says? Provide free education and compulsory education. No one should be left out. Everybody should be educated. Okay, that's why we have schools in every villages, every area we can find schools, and still lot of things are happening, developing. Okay, because we have a policy to follow. Okay, and that's why we provide, the government is asking to provide. That's why government schools are providing free and compulsory education. Okay, nobody should be left over up to the age of 14, which means up to 10th standard. Okay, protect the children and youth from any kind of exploitation. So another thing is, Gandhian principle is the protection of the youth and children from all kind of exploitation, many kind of danger, many kind of problems, whatever we see in the social and public area. Okay, so our government should protect them from any kind of problem they face, and improve health and nutritional level of people. And the third, a very important thing, because we have to provide the development, or we have to improve the health system, then only we can live peacefully. Okay, and that level should be for everyone. It is also not without any difference. Okay, promote the weaker section like the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, etc. So there is a vast number of projects and many initiatives are taken to develop or promote the weaker section, like scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Government is taking lot of initiative to bring them up, means give them lot of education, lot of development, like facilities like road transportation facilities, electricity facilities, and many more facilities are given to these particular areas for their development. Okay, prevent the slaughter of animals and promote animal husbandry. So this is also one of the important factor that government is taking care of the animals. So that is under the Department of Animal Husbandry. Okay, prohibit the consumption of drugs that are injurious to health. This is also very important nowadays. This is very famous, familiar way among the youth, because the taking drugs kills our life. It is harmful for our health. That's why government also taking very strict steps to prohibit or prevent every use of drugs. Okay, then general principles. These principles suggest the government to set up a uniform civil code in the country. Okay, and there is a uniform civil code, and preserve and improve the environment, protect the monuments and other objects of national importance, promote international peace. So these are the general principles. Okay, and we have a uniform civil code, like all Indians are equal. We have a patriotic system, patriotic system, and we have a code of civil code, you know, even though we were from different culture, different state, and people from different speaking languages, but there is a setup of uniform civil code. There is no difference between each other. So we live in a in a country where we have pluralistic, means different culture, different practices are there, but we live as a uniform setup, you know, and that is the important thing of our country. And we have to preserve the environment, like we have to protect the the forest, we have to protect the rivers, we have to protect the our environment. That's why we learn about the air pollution, water pollution, and a lot of things we learning about the nature and our surroundings, neighborhood, and all those things we are learning in our school days, because we, as a good citizen, we have some responsibilities and duty to preserve and improve the environment, okay, and protect the monuments. See, we have lot of monuments, because these monuments gives us lot of information, and it helps us to find the lot of historical information from these monuments. That's why government is taking lot of initiative to, and there are lot of rules and regulation for the protection of monuments. Monuments means the the important things, important buildings, important statues, structures, or the things of the olden days. In every city you can find lot of statues will be there, lot of buildings, old buildings will be there. These are called monuments, okay. The government is undertaking everything, okay, to protect them and promote the improvement, and promote international peace. We should promote the international peace of the peace, okay. We don't speak about the different race or different things, okay. We just promote peace among all people, okay. And the permeable is the introduction to the Constitution of India. It is like a preface of our Constitution. In December 1976, the preamble was amended by adding the words socialist, secular, and integrity. The present day preamble reads as, "We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation." In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. So this is the friend. It's a kind of promise or the declaration made in our Constitution. Okay, when it was in 1976. That's why we see in India we have such a freedom of belief, such a freedom of faith, worship. Okay, we have a liberty. Liberty means we have a freedom in everything. Okay, and we have equality. That's why we say don't differentiate people or differentiate the things like state wise, district wise, or based on the languages. We all are Indians. We are. That's why we take the pledge. We all are Indians. We are brothers and sisters, and we should have a peace of mind, and we should live a peaceful life. That's why we should not separate our brotherlyhood by the division of religion, caste, or whatever it means. Okay, we should. That's what the preamble taught us. Okay, that's why it is teaching us these are the beliefs, and we should follow this. This is very important thing. Okay, and that's why we say our country is a secular country. It's a democratic country. It is not bound with any of the religious or casteist or any kind of things that are very strict. Like different country has some political influence, some country has some religious influence, some countries has some racial influence, but our country is a social and it is a secular country. That's why we all live peacefully. Okay, and fundamental rights, the Constitution of India guarantees some basic rights to the citizens of India. These are called fundamental rights. See, as an Indian, we have some rights and equality. Okay, these rights are called fundamental because they are necessary for a well-being of the citizens and their dignity. Okay, this fundamental, that's why we say it is a fundamental right. It's a basic right that these rights are fundamentals because they are necessary for a well-being of the citizen. Without these, every citizen cannot be live in a peaceful atmosphere. Okay, this gives it always looks after the well-being of every citizen, and also respect every citizen, gives respect and dignity. Okay, the fundamental rights are vital for social progress as well as for smooth functioning of the democracy. Okay, so that's why we say normally we should not discriminate any people by their work, by their act, by their difference, or by any race. Okay, there is no special dignity for some people and some for no dignity, or we should treat them differently and we should treat some people in different way. So we should not have any kind of discrimination. Discrimination means no separation, no partiality, all are equal. Okay, these things are made up by people, and this is a normal thing. Okay, but human being are same, and the blood and the feelings, everything is same, and the same feeling that we have is having among every citizen of our country. So we should feel and respect each other's feeling. We should respect each other's dignity. That's why the fundamental rights gives us that kind of well-being to our citizens, every citizen. Okay, and it cannot be exercised at all times. Case of war, emergency, extreme crisis, they remain suspended. Okay, and in some cases, in some exceptions, so this is not exercised in a full manner. So in emergency or in any extreme crisis, some things are be suspended, like in some of the cases, some people are given special what we call special care, and special benefits are given to some special people and special areas. That is depend upon the emergency, or in the case of war, or in the case of any crisis. So that government decides and do that for the benefit and well-being of the citizens. Okay, and we have some of the fundamental rights. What are the fundamental rights? Right to equality. Right to equality is given in the Article 14 to 18 of our Constitution. According to this right, all Indian citizens are equal before law and shall be treated equally in the eyes of the law. It means no Indian shall be discriminated or grounds of caste discriminated on the ground of caste, religion, race, gender, etc. The right to equality also state that untouchability, a social evil, and should not be practiced in the country. Okay, these rights also states, means it also mentions that, and untouchability and social evil should not be practiced in our country. So I have already told you, and this law, India has a constitution, and every citizens are equal before the law, and there is no partiality in rules and regulation, even in the judgment. Okay, if somebody did some wrong, and the law should be implemented on the people, and it should not be different. We should not make a different kind of judgment to different kind of people, and we should be very conscious, and we should be very authentic with the laws, and following the law and order. Okay, and it should not be there should not be discrimination on the ground of based on caste, religion, race, or gender. Okay, and these are the fundamental rights. Okay, basic right. And there is no kind of untouchabilities, and there is no practice of social evil. Okay, we should not practice social evil. There are some kind of social evils. In the olden days, it was in practice in the name of maybe in the religion, in the name of caste, in the name of gender. Okay, and but nowadays, because many of our leaders, they fought against the social evils, and they brought good kind of atmosphere in our custom and culture, so that we live a peaceful life. Okay, and there were untouchability in those days, but that also was removed from our country. Okay, but we should, as a good citizen, we should follow these fundamental rights. We should think everyone equal. Right to freedom. The right to freedom is mentioned in Article 19 to 22 of our Constitution. This right ensures civil liberty and protect the citizens from the repression of the government. It includes freedom of speech and expression, freedom of assemble peacefully, freedom of form associations and unions, freedom of move freely throughout the territory of India, freedom to reside or settle in any part of the country, freedom to practice any profession, trade, or business which is lawful in nature. See, so these are the right to freedom. See, our country how much carefully made all the fundamental rights. See, here we have some of the fundamental rights and freedom. See, what are the freedom? Freedom of speech and expression. Okay, every individual citizens having, they have a freedom of speech expression. Whatever we feel, we can express our feeling, we can speak it out. Okay, we have that kind of right. Nobody is to be what we say condemned or judged by the expression of any feeling or anything. Okay, and freedom of assemble peacefully. Whatever functions, whatever means of assembly gathering peacefully, we can make it. Okay, not it is only for the benefit of peace and harmony of our country. There should not be any kind of differentiation. And freedom to form associations and unions. See, we have lot of unions in our country, in our areas. See, there are taxi driver union, drivers unions, conductor union, teachers unions, and many unions are there. Okay, people are making lot of associations, trust, and they do it for the welfare of others. It is a cooperative unit. Okay, we have freedom of that. Anybody can form any trust or association. Okay, and freedom to move freely throughout of the territory. See, if we want to go to foreign country, we need passport, visa, and all those things. But traveling throughout our country from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, and from this side, last what we call Tripura or Arunachal Pradesh to Gujarat, we have no restriction. We can travel anywhere in our country. Okay, without any restriction or any problem. Okay, and one more thing, that is reside or settle in any part of the country. And India also give us freedom. Anybody can settle down anywhere. Okay, South Indian can stay in North, and North Indian can stay in South India, and Northeast can stay in Northwest, and Northwest people can stay in Northeast. So this is a India country where we as a people of one nation. We live as a brothers and sisters. We live as a joint family. That's why we are proud of our constitution. Okay, we should respect, and we are respecting always. Okay, and we freedom of profession. Anybody can take any profession. Like if anybody want to become a vakil, a lawyer, okay, go ahead. If anybody want to become IAS, it's ready, you can do it. If anybody want to become a doctor, you study and become a doctor. Okay, and there is no limitation, no restriction for anybody to take any profession or any kind of business. Okay, so these are the fundamental rights that our country constitution gives. Okay, right against exploitation. Right against exploitation is given in Article 23 and 24 of our constitution. This right aims at eradicating all forms of exploitation from the Indian society. It bans forced labor which is involved in or less payment for work. It also prohibits child labor by stating that no child below the age of 14 can be employed in any factory or mines, etc. Okay, so this is one of the important thing that our constitution is having, because this is a right against exploitation. We should not forcefully do something on, we should not forcibly do something to anyone. Like we can there is no slavery system, like bringing somebody and put them in the work with less salary and making them work for us and all those things. Even the child labor system also totally prohibited in our country. And right to freedom of religion. Right to freedom of religion is mentioned in Article 25 to 28 of our constitution. It states that every citizen is free to profess, practice and propagate the religion of his or her choice. There is no state religion in India. The Indian state shall not discriminate or prefer any religion. India is a secular state. See, it is very clear that India is a secular state, which means there is no particular religion or particular thing that's to be adopted in for every. So every citizen has their own freedom of belief, freedom of sharing, freedom of propagation. Means they can propagate, they can practice, they do all sort of religious practices in the country. Okay, and we should not have any kind of discrimination. Means there is no partiality between any religion. Okay, all are equal in the sight of the constitution. Then cultural and educational right. These rights are given in Article 29 and 30 of our constitution. These state that every community has the freedom to develop, preserve and promote its culture, language and script. It also has the freedom to open and run its own educational institution. See, every state, every culture, every language, it has its own freedom to promote, develop their own culture, their own language, their own scripts. See, it is a wonderful right. And right to the constitution, and for the education also it gives the community development. Whatever we wish, we can do that. And right to constitutional remedies. This right is given in the Article 31 and 32 of our constitution. This right enables every Indian citizen safeguard his or her fundamental right. When person thinks that any of his or her fundamental rights is denied to him, he or she can go to a court of law to get his or her right restored. See, this is right to constitutional remedies. So this right gives us the authority to go to the court and appeal or ask for our right. If anywhere these kind of rights are taken away or denied to be enjoyed. Okay, if anything happens against these kind of fundamental rights, the government is giving us freedom to go to the court and give the get the remedies, solutions. Okay, And the fundamental duties, the same way we as a citizen, we have some duties. So government is giving us freedom, and the government is expecting some duties, some responsibilities from every citizen. Since we enjoy the fundamental right, all Indian citizens need to perform some basic duties towards the state or country. These duties are called fundamental duties. Rights and duties are like two sides of a coin. Okay, the fundamental duties and the rights, and the fundamental rights are two coins of the sides. Means matlab ki two sides of the coin. If there is one side plain, means nobody will take the coin, right? Just to think about, if I go to a shop and give 100 rupees note, one side is plain white and one side is printed as a 100 rupees note, who will take? And nobody will take. Okay, the same way fundamental, if we enjoy the fundamental rights, and we have to follow the duties, fundamental duties also. Okay, and not only taking benefit, we have to do some of the duties to our country. As a citizen of India, all of us need to abide by the Constitution of India and uphold its ideals, institutions and emblems. See, as a Indian citizens, what are the benefits we get? We should abide by the Constitution of India. We should abide the rules and regulation. Nobody should, we cannot tell that I won't obey, or I will not obey the rules and regulations. We should not disregard the rules and regulation. We need to cherish and uphold the ideas like freedom, non-violence, democracy, secularism, etc., which inspired our freedom struggles. See, these are the things always we have to cherish. Means we have to keep it in our mind, and we should respect, okay, the things like freedom, non-violence, democracy, secularism. Okay, these things we should always think about, because these are inspired our freedom struggle. Okay, always it gives us the remembrance of our freedom fight struggle. Okay, because many people struggle to get this freedom, and the sacrifice of many of our leaders, only we are enjoying this freedom. That's why we should always honor and cherish the freedom of our India. Okay, and we should respect the Constitution. We need to uphold and promote the sovereignty, unity and integrity of the land. We should uphold the high authority, okay, and the unity and integrity. Okay, we should be faithful to our country. We should be we should always try to be unity maker, peacemaker, not the people to divide the people. Okay, we should protect the sovereignty, and we should help protect the unity and integrity, faithfulness. Okay, we need to defend our country and render national service when called up to do. Okay, and whenever there is a need for service, we should do and we should defend for our country. If anything comes against our country's welfare, we should stand and we should support our country. Okay, and we need to promote harmony, spirit of brotherhood, and respect the dignity of women. See, always we have to respect the respect women. Okay, we should respect the dignity of women. We should not ill-treat them, or we should not dishonor them. Okay, and we have to promote harmony. Promote harmony means wherever possible we have to make harmony. Means oneness of mind, oneness of things, and the fellowship and the peace of atmosphere. It should be implemented through us, and we should not the people of the division. We need to value and preserve our rich culture and heritage. See, India has different culture, different kind of customs. So we should value every culture, every people's culture and their custom. Okay, we need to protect and improve the natural environment. See, we have a beautiful land with lot of natural resources, and we should protect them, and we have to improve our work for the development of natural environment. Okay, whatever environment situation that we enjoy, we should protect. See, in our areas there are a lot of streams are there, fresh water streams. We should protect them. We should not simply we should not leave them, and we should maximum level to protect them and develop them, so that the next generation or the people who are living surrounding there will be benefited. Okay, and we need to protect the monuments and public property. See, we have lot of public property. What are the public property? Like government buses, government buildings, government monuments, places. Lot of government properties are there. These are called public properties. Okay, and we should protect them. We should not make any kind of dirty or any kind of unwanted things. We should be very conscious to protect and promote the development. Okay, we need to develop scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and or reform. So always we need to develop, means we should work for the development of every area of development. We have to contribute and we have to work for it. We need to strive for excellence of all spheres. Every area we should work hard to work hard for the excellence. It is not the normal good or fair. We should work for excellency in everything for our service, as the service of our country. That's why we always motivate you and challenge you to take some good position in our country, to serve the country and work for the benefit of the people. Okay, that is our duty. We should do that. Okay, this is really a wonderful lesson, and we get lot of information about our country and the benefits of our country. Really, I personally enjoyed, right? So I hope you also enjoyed the lesson, the Constitution of India. Okay, you go through the reading once again, do your reading, and you can understand lot of things about our country. So really I hope you all enjoyed this lesson. Okay, fine.